Mr. President Nilsson is our guest today, and as you are aware, we are trying to somehow investigate the first days of Georgians after restoring the independence of Georgia, and especially we are focused on the foreign relations, how it was established, and we would like very much to hear from you about your personal recollections, how it started, because Germany was the first country who opened the embassy in Georgia. It was a great threshold for us, and we were very happy, and even until now the German embassy cards have number 01. Yes. So please, Mr. Nilsson, if you like, just tell us about your impressions and about your visits and about your conversations with the Georgian officials. And so
yeah, well, we opened the embassy, I don't know exactly, but I came July 92, so I think we opened in June, and that was due to the visit Hans-Dietrich Genscher, the former German foreign minister, visited all states who belonged to the Soviet Union before, and and he promised all these states, Baltic states, Ukraine, the Caucasian states and Central Asian states, embassies. So we were opening up, I think, about 12 embassies in this year. That was not so easy, but it was a wonderful thing of Mr. Genscher to do this. So we were also the first here, and as you said, that's why we have this number plate 001. And I came from Chile. I was posted in Chile, and then transferred via Frankfurt to Georgia. And of course, I must admit, I didn't know much about Georgia. I learned ancient Greek at school in Latin, so I had some idea of Colchis and Medea and Prometheus and all this, But of course, only few people, I think, had a knowledge of Georgia, maybe in East Germany, of course. So I came 8th of August 92, and I remember this vividly. We had a delay of 8 hours, I think, and at the airport the cars could drive directly to the plane, and you could jump into your car from the plane, and then we drove from the airport to Sheraton Hotel, which took us about 4 hours also, because there were so many stops by National Guard, normal police, whatever people. So every 200 meters we had to stop. And of course there was no electricity and nothing. But my driver always said Germani is Salcho, and that's why we had no problem to get to Sheraton Hotel. Yeah, this more or less continued, this sort of atmosphere more or less continued up to January, hopefully I don't get this wrong now, 93, yes? 93, yeah. Wait, no, 94. 94, yeah. Because Abkhazia was lost in 93, yeah. 93. And then Kamchakoria came back, and we had this quarrel, and then from January 94, normalization started, and it was mainly then due to the fact that was later when Kitovani was arrested and Jabba was arrested. I think that was up to 95. I think Jabba was only arrested in summer 95.
Yes, that's right.
And so, unfortunately, the Georgian government had no control anymore of Srinvali region and Abkhazia, but for the rest of the country, this sort of normalization started only in January 94 after Kamsakhodia's death, and then step by step getting rid of National Guard and Khedrioni, So, but these from July 92 to January 94, it was here in Tbilisi, it was not really easy for people. For me, okay, I was in the Sheraton and so on, but I was living in Petriashvili Street, I think. But you remember vividly, you were too young for this, I think, but there was really more or less never electricity, rarely no water, no warm water, no heating. So that was, in the winter, 92, 93 was cold. It was very cold winter, I remember this. So it's not like now, just you can survive now without heating, it's no problem, And there was controls of all these gangs all over. There was I remember in August 92, it was hard to buy anything. It was even toothbrush was impossible, more or less, you know. And there was no shops and no restaurants. There was just nothing, you know. And then we had this change of currency from ruble to kuponi, which went directly into, I think 1 Deutschmark was then 1 million kuponi. And then we changed to lari, and that was a success story, in my opinion. Lari, I mean, the main success of currencies is that you keep them tight so that you have no inflation, you know. And this lari is a success story, I think. It's a stable currency and everything goes well. And that was very...
Yeah, that's right.
But I don't remember exactly when lari was introduced.
1.3 it was at first, compared with dollar.
Ah, yeah.
1.3.
1.3. Now it's
2.5.
Well, that's still
right.
But a stable currency is the basis of all economies. So then things really started, and but I would say it took time. You know, this when I left in '95, it was still, how can I say, it was still not a really vivid city. The city I realize now it has really changed dramatically, and I think it has completely changed, in my opinion. It's some sort of normalization also. Yeah, it's the shops, restaurants, everything. It's like any normal. So and you have normal problems like, do we build a new building or do we restore the old building? But this discussion, it's not only Tbilisi, you have all over the world. You know, when we speak now about the old city and. So, and with regard to foreign German-Georgian relations, it was okay. We started from the scratch. Everything was started from the beginning. The embassy, and then we were lucky to open a Goethe Institute in our formal consulate, San Lucchesi Street, and I'm now very happy we have a German school here, which is really in the framework of the German foreign school system. So we got the Deutsche Akademische Austauschdienst and the political foundation came here. And I think one of the best things we initiated were that we were able to convince the GIZ, the Gesellschaft für internationale Zusammenarbeit, to focus on law. So the whole law system in Georgia is more or less from German background, and there was mainly Mr. Lado Chanturia, who was now ambassador in Berlin and who now is in the Court of Justice in Strasbourg. So that I think was very, very important, so that you got this legal framework, which is also like a currency, the basis of living together, you know. And that I think was a very good idea. We focused on this path, on the law system of Georgia constitution, and so now the constitution has changed a lot as far as I understand, but it gets more like German constitution as far as I understand, you know. So the president is more like how can I say, representative figure, and the power is with the government. This the German system also, you know. And we tried also to convince people to come here, to invest here, and to get into economic relationships. But frankly speaking, up to '95, it was not so successful, I must say. Right. Now Germany and Austria is very present here everywhere. You have all companies and so on. But at that time, I think we must admit that the change came with the Saakashvili. Whatever we think about Mr. Saakashvili as a person, but I think his his achievement is that he somehow got Georgia with him. Somehow got rid of the Soviet attitude, Soviet structure, Soviet. You know, up to 2003, and I'm a big admirer of Shevardnadze, of course, but up to 2003, it was still this Soviet something, you know. And then Saakashvili pushed this away, you know, whatever he did wrong, of course, but this he pushed away, and that, I think, with this time, 2003 to 2013, Georgia somehow restarted. Yeah, it became a real country, which its own character and so on, but up to 2003 it was Soviet, in my opinion, from attitude.
Right, but in '95 some kind of stabilization started, as you mentioned.
Absolutely.
First of all, due to the very strong and powerful parliament, and Saakashvili himself was one chairman of the legal committee, if you remember. Zurabjani became the speaker of the parliament. And
no, that's by the way a big loss. I think the death of Mr. Joania was for Georgia very bad, because I admired him a lot, and I think he was the figure to calm people down, to get the right decisions, and that was the real. Sorry.
Yes, it was terrible experience.
Yeah.
It was a terrible loss. You're right. Mr. Nilseni, would you like to just recall, let's say, some projects you wanted to fulfill and there were problems or they were successful? Could you just, if you met with Shevardnadze, for instance, or the people you were talking to?
Yeah, I mean, I was sometimes, because I was a long time also, not ambassador, but how we say this?
The number two, the deputy.
I was number two, but for a long time there was no ambassador, so it was from, I think, end of '94 to April '95. I was in charge, so I was very often with Mr. Shevardnadze and Gilad Chagviani and the others. And what can I say? With regard to Srenvali region, Abkhazia, I don't know. Maybe it would have been possible if everything would have gone better to keep Srenvali region. Maybe.
Yeah.
But frankly, we knew what Moscow wanted, and that's it. So, but we don't give up. I think Georgia will restore its territorial integrity. I think. I don't know why. I just come from Srenvali region. I went all this crazy carbon wire. I went there, But this is so horrible. It can't exist forever. This is just unimaginable. I mean, we live in a normal world, and it can't be like this. So, in the very long run, I think Georgia will, restore. I want to say restore territorial integrity. I'm sure.
But we need some patience. I think.
That's what I think is most important. You need this. You need this patience. You need the right moments. The situation everything must be fine, and then. So let's be optimistic that this will happen. Of course, our time was up to September '93, when Georgians was expelled from Abkhazia, was dominated by these two issues, also in the United Nations, in the OSCE, and so on and so on. So that was more or less. And then, of course, we had 2008, but at that time I was in Belarus, so I don't want to. I think finally it went wrong. This weekend, at least this we can say it went wrong. Why? There are so many theories and so many discussions, but it went wrong. But it was a hard time for Georgia, because you were more or less under attack to a certain extent. And of course, can you sit there forever and do nothing? I don't know, But I think finally it was wrong to go in. I would say this was now for the Russians easy to make stories, But okay, let's hope. It's a bit of a pity for me, because I published my book in 2000. I was a bit of optimistic, especially about Srenvali region, but now. So I went again there, and it's really deep in my heart, because somehow. I'm a good Protestant, and I always thought it's my fault. This whole crazy story, and that's why I wrote this book, because I think the main impulse was to write it down like it was, in a very objective way, because there was too much propaganda from all sides. And that was my book, and then this book turned to be more also like travel literature about Georgia. But I think it was important to put in the German-speaking book. There are one English, two, I think in English also, so that people who have an interest in this country can just sit down and read it and basta. This you can't do by Wikipedia. You need a book, more or less, and a book which is easy to read. And these things like from political foundations, so they tend to be a bit more difficult, And so that was my aim, and I'm very happy that Georgia is now guest of honor at the Frankfurt Book Fair. I will also go there and present my two books. It's one travel literature, and the other one is an anthology, about text about Georgia, but these texts are very good in my opinion because they all throw light on a specific Georgian cultural thing, you know, whatever. So, and I found now more texts, especially from our consulate from 1924, the depeche from our consuls from 1924, where they describe this uprising, and very wonderful depeche. I was so shocked by it's very brutal because it was so brutal, this uprising, and the answer of the Russians, ooh la la. And that's all in these depeches, so I will print these two also. And I think I think I will now try to get some Georgian into the German archives in the Foreign Office, because I think many of these things are unknown.
That's right.
Yeah, and it's very important for Georgian history to know this.
Right. To learn lessons and so on.
Yeah.
Right. Mr. Nelson, would you please like to tell us if you had advised some of Georgian colleagues and about your impressions on the reactions to your things and to a perception of what's going on, for instance, in relation with Abkhazia issue?
But I don't follow. What?
Did you advise some of your? Did you discuss with some of your Georgian colleagues at the ministry?
At that time?
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
When you were here,
of course we did.
Because
yeah.
we were very much interested in how it went on, how we deepened the relations with our partners from the West, first of all.
But I think the first very important decision was by Germany to get here, to go here. So and then they followed. I think the next were the Americans.
Yeah. Yes.
And
the
Turks, and then I think Greece was very early on.
Yes.
And I think Russia was number 5.
Number 6.
Yeah. Okay, there must be some. Maybe Iran or Azerbaijan or
Azerbaijan. Yes.
Azerbaijan. Yeah. So this really attracted a lot of other embassies here. I mean, now we have also the Austrians and we have the Swiss, what is very important. And I think this discussion about, it was mainly Abkhazia, because South Ossetia up to 2008 was more or less always the same state of level, which was not so bad, you know, and we could have compared to today, you know, yeah. And Abkhazia, I think, I mean, very friendly, I think we were all into, how I say in English, nobody really knew how to solve this. And then we had this September 93, you know, and then I think later Georgians again, many went back to Gali region and they were expelled again, I think in 1998, yeah. Nobody knew how to deal with this really. I think I went to Abkhazia to Sukhumi twice, I met Vladimir Zimba twice. I mean, we all knew what the state without Georgians, basta, you know, and how to fight against this when you have this wonderful other nation. You know, what can you do? I don't know. I think that was, unfortunately, you know, when you read about the establishment of these 3 autonomous regions, they have different names, but these Ajaria and Abkhazia, South Ossetia, so it was also in different times, but it was mainly beginning of the 20s, so after occupation of Georgia in the 20s, and the idea was, it's written everywhere, that's the moment that the Georgians get a bit nasty, you let explode this bomb of autonomous region. I mean, this is written everywhere, and it happened. It happened exactly this, you know, and whether this would have been possible not to let it happen, I don't know. I think, frankly, it was the idea. It's written everywhere. I think Stalin said it himself personally. When you do something, I let this. Yeah. So that happened, and it's but somehow I want to be optimistic.
Yeah.
I want to believe that this will be solved, because this is.
Thank you very much. But I still think that these problems, whatsoever complex by themselves, they were even more complicated by the presence of Russians, because Russians always were behind them, trying to, at least not helping us, the parties in the conflict, to somehow come to some understanding or agreement.
But somehow I'm happy that you know that we had we could have a lot of other problems. Let's mention, what is it, Javakheti region?
Javakheti region. Was somehow.
We also have we had Ajara. I mean, Mr. Abashidze, I met him very often.
Exactly.
At least then it was, of course, it was the second Rose Revolution, if we want to use this word. I don't like this word very much. But that went well, all in all, It could have gone completely wrong, in my opinion. So let's try to make the best out of what we have now and to be optimistic and just to behave like civilized people in between, and I think now we should also care about Tbilisi. I 3 days now I speak about Tbilisi, about architecture, this Saakashvili period, if you wanted to. And of course you have people who are very much against it, and I'm astonished by myself. I'm not against these buildings, because I think there are two important things about one. They put a contrast to, let's say, this blue bridge. You can of course say, okay, it's ugly, it's horrible, but I don't agree. I think it's a contrast with the old city, and it somehow works, in my opinion. If you would have built something smaller or old, no, it would be a copy. So I think these buildings are okay. Of course, not so nice, one or two skyscrapers here, but I don't refer to them as this architectural period because they are just built by whom, I don't know whom. So, and when you go to Sarpi and you see this border control station, it's good. I think it's good. Yes. And of course, with this architectural trick, Georgia really branded his name. I think via this architecture, Georgia finally became worldwide known as a country. And that's so important. It's so important. I mean, Georgia, in my opinion, you can live from agriculture and tourism. Of course, you won't get very rich, but it's the basis. And I heard now you had 7 million tourists last year. I think it's a bit too many, in my opinion. Yes.
But it's slightly exaggerated.
I think
just visitors are also included in these tourists.
Okay, that's why you say visitors. Okay, I understand.
Yeah,
visitors. Not even half our tourists, like the real tourists who came here for tourism.
Yeah.
But with this now, problems really start. I'm somehow a gardener. That's my hobby, and I'm afraid of Refsuretti and Svanetti.
Yeah.
I mean, how many tourists should go there? I think they should pay entrance fee, or something, to make it very. If I would be Minister of Tourism in Georgia, I would do what now cities and countries do, like southern France, Venice and Barcelona, to control tourism, especially in numbers, in quantity and in quality, and just to put less tourists who pay more for better quality. Otherwise, it will be destroyed.
It should be the general direction.
But also with this, I'm optimistic because I think Georgians know this problem. They're very educated, very civilized, and what I see from Tbilisi so far, okay, there are different opinions. I think I was more pessimistic when I left. I thought, oh my God, this is the last time you see this wonderful town as it was so long time. And now I must say, from my point of view, I'm quite happy with the town. But many Georgians say I'm crazy.
Well, different opinions. And finally, Mr. Nilsson, I would like just to reflect over these years, and if we compare the first years you have witnessed yourself, and until today, now we are the members of all international organizations, and we even signed the association agreement with
the European Union. Yes.
Also, the visa liberation, in fact, is still a long way we have passed. So I think that still it could be considered as, in spite of everything, lack of tradition, lack of experience, it could be considered as the success of Georgian foreign policy. Do you agree with this assumption, or do you think it's
Yes, I would agree. I mean, I think the foreign policy from the first moment onwards was in very good hands. I mean, and specialized hands, and really people who knew diplomacy, and I think it went so normally quickly. I was a bit astonished, but I mean, you had these Gela Chakvani and so on, and so it was, and wonderful people in the Foreign Office. So I think this whole story is a success story. I mean, if we speak about EU and NATO and let's say the ambitions for this is a question whether someone wants it or not. I don't want to speak for Georgia. I think now, how can I say this? I would not overemphasize the importance of being in EU or NATO. I would not overemphasize this. Of course, Georgia is a European country. Who could deny this? Unfortunately, many people have no knowledge, and I hate it so much. Always, is this really Georgia? Is this really a European country? I said, come on. I come from not Friesland, so let's say take Denmark. In Denmark, you had no Semitic tradition. You had no early Christian life. You had no Romans and no Greeks. So, but these four elements are European. So I always say that some countries in the north of Europe, how do you say, they are, of course, I say that Georgia is European, and some other countries just say they are European because they don't have this tradition. But if you speak about very old European countries, it's the countries with a Semitic tradition. I would say Greek Geist, Griechischer Geist, Roman law, and everything combined by Christian religion.
The European features.
So this is Georgia. Georgia is Europe completely, more than many other nations in the world. But it's a different story whether you want to be part of the European Union. If I would be a Georgian politician, I would not overemphasize this. We all know because of these territorial integrity question, it's difficult. But I think most important is to be a member, to be in deep contact with the European Union. I think this is most important. And so I think now, for me, somehow Georgia has this phases of normalization. Well, we see the next elections, but I think it's you see what people speak about now. It's about questions nobody spoke about, like whether this is a nice house or a bad house, and so now we have these normal problems, And sorry, I can't say it so well, but I think you understand what I mean. So, but the diplomacy of Georgia, I think, was always in perfect hands up to now. We now had this wonderful ambassador, Lalo Chanturia, and now we have another one, so it's perfect. And the Georgian embassy is very strong, and I'm very happy now that Georgia is guest of honor of the Frankfurt Book Fair, which, imagine this, we would have said this in '95, everyone would have said, are you crazy? And this is also part of the normalization, in my opinion. Of course, it's very important that your rich culture, also in literature. I mean, I think that Galaktion Davids is really one of the best poets in the world, in my opinion. Even in German translation, it's wonderful. It's really wonderful. Also, some poems of Baratashvili, and this should get known in the Western world and all over Europe and the world, And I think this is important that you use these. The Frankfurter Buchmesse, I'm very happy to go there in October. I already booked my hotel room because it's so expensive. This crazy book fair. But I'm very happy about this, and of course you have always some figures. I mean, let's not speak about Katie Melua, I think her name is. I don't listen to pop music, but you always have these now, like Bunyatishvili, and you have so many musicians in Germany from the Georgian background. And so this is also very important because they are, so to speak, the ambassadors of their country, Right. And now we have one who changed the language, Haratishvili. Yeah, but she's writing in German. I don't know why, but she's writing in German, and very good book. It's this sixth generation saga of Tbilisi, you can say, and it's very emotional, very. Well, she became very, and that was very important for Georgia.
Does she write in German?
She's writing. No, she's rewriting in German, which I think is very difficult. But even for German, it's difficult.
Yeah. So, thank you.
No, thank you very much.